Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today we are going to talk about the famous Philidor endgame position. Um, it is also known as the sixth rank defense. And the idea is for the weaker side, in this case black, to be able to hold on to a draw, okay, by utilizing um, the sixth rank as a defense. So here, with black to move, we can see that black's king is pinned down to the eighth rank, and um, all looks hopeless here. The white rook is powerfully posted on a7. The white king is centralized on d5, and he has a pawn on e4. So it looks like he's just gonna queen, make a few checks, move the uh, black king out of the way, and win. So here's black's defense. First of all, remember this: it's important to not let the white king cross the sixth rank. Now, Philidor created this study in 1777, so this knowledge has been around for a long time. So everybody should know it. And this is the same Philidor that said pawns are the soul of chess. And so he knew a little bit about the game. Now, the reason why the black king, is on the eighth rank is to show, in this particular defense, that only thing that's needed here is really the rook at the beginning. So now white faces a problem. He can't cross over the sixth rank because the rook is there. All right, and if he tries to move his rook, then um, then the king is free, and then the king can assist in the defense. All right, so then the study goes e5. Okay, just pushing the pawn. All right, now the pawn is going to march in order to block the influence of the rook on the six, and then the king can cross over safely. So rook g6, just staying there, right? And now e6. Okay, now the white king can cross over. Okay, so now what do you do? All right, this is when you go all the way to the first rank, and now you start checking from behind, and that is it. So king d6, right? Now mate is threatened here, right? Rook a8. So white's move, black's next move has to be an important one. So rook d1 check, and black just keeps checking from the first rank. Rook e1, king f6, and rook e1. There's no way that white can escape. All right. So this shows that white's rook alone is not enough to advance the pawn to become a queen. The king is also the king and rook together uh, need to be coordinated in order to queen the pawn. Okay. So the lesson from this endgame you see is that the black king is totally useless in the study, and white still cannot win, right? Because of the long distance checking power of the rook. So let's look at that one more time. So again, rook to the sixth, right? E5, rook g6, and we're going to look at a couple of examples. So it's not like you have to remember these exact moves, but remember that rook coming to the sixth rank to block until the pawn reaches the sixth rank, and then of course the rook can't block anymore, and then you go all the way back. Okay, and that's that's the idea. Okay, let's give you an example. If you play rook h6 here, right? Then say you didn't know what the formula, play rook h6, then king d6 would happen, threatening mate. Now there's no check here. King f8, rook a8, driving the king off the back rank. King g7, king d7, and now rook h1, it would be too late. e7, rook d1, and then king c6, and there's no stopping that pawn. So you can see just a simple um, lack of knowledge there could cost you that endgame. It's important that once that pawn reaches the sixth rank, to play your rook all the way down to the first rank. Okay, so one more time, boom, rook g1, and then you start checking from the back. You need that long distance checking ability. So now we're going to look at a few more so you get the principle. Now consider this position right here. Here's white to move, and now the tides have turned. Is black with the pawn, right, on the third rank. Now these correspond. I'm not going to say sixth rank. It could be the sixth rank or the third rank. So with black coming down the board, the position is reversed. Now here, black's king is already on the third rank, and the pawn is already there. So based on um, what I just told you, you should know that, hey, if I can get my white rook back here somewhere, I can draw this game. The only difference really is that in the first position we saw the rook um, keeping the king confined to the second rank, and the rook was over here, it was here, and then played back here. So look how this goes. Because once you understand the Philidor's defense, then you'll be able to look at other positions and see how to get to Philidor's defense. So here, white played rook e2. Okay. Now rook a5. And the idea here is a good idea. So rook a5 threatening mate. So now what do you do here? Okay. Rook d2. Check. Now if the pawn takes the rook, then it's going to be stalemate, and white escapes. So the king went back to e4, and now you see Philidor's defense. Because remember, the king can just stay on the back rank. So the white king being on d1 is not important. Rook goes to d8, and now you have the same scenario leading right to Philidor's defense. So having that base knowledge of the Philidor's defense can allow you to get out of some hairy looking positions. So at first you might not be able to see it from there. You're looking, but just having that knowledge of, hey, if I had this rook back here, I could be okay. So the key move is finding that stalemate idea, because if you're trying to draw, you know that you got to look for stalemates also, because those are just as good as any other kind of draws. So let's look at another one. Here is another form and here's black to move. And here is another way to defend this position. Notice that here the white rook isn't confining the black king back to the 8th rank. So you simply can play king e7. Okay, and then you just stay there. King e7, rook c5, rook b7, rook a5, rook c7, and you just stay right there. Okay, so that's another way to defend the position. But we are talking about the pure Philidor's defense, so I do want you to know that it is perfectly, sorry about that, instead of doing king e7, it is perfectly good to do rook a1, which draws also, because we know the Philidor's defense, and we would simply just check from the back. So if you don't want to confuse yourself, you're in a time scramble or something, you just don't, you have that type of position, you throw that rook on the back rank, and know that even if he checks, or as long as you don't get mated, but if he goes there, you're perfectly you're perfectly fine. Again, the same exact position, but this time is with white to move. Last time I showed you where if he wanted to, he could come off the back rank. Black could come off the back rank, play king e7. But like I said, to avoid confusion, rook a1 draws also with the idea of coming back. But instead, in this same position, it's white to move. And white plays rook f4, but no worries. Again, you just stay on the back rank. Right? Get right in front of that pawn. Okay, king comes to f6, and boom, rook goes to a1. So eventually, for white to make progress, this rook has to move. That leaves the white king vulnerable, and then you just start checking from the back. Same thing. And Philidor's defense is a very useful defense. Just give you a couple of other variations instead of just the rook f4. Say the king try to move up. Remember this stalemate idea. Rook f7. It's always a useful idea because once this pawn captures, the king has no moves, so it's stalemate. So always remember that idea, and you can get to Philidor's defense like that. So rook f7. Of course, that's stalemate. You don't want to get jammed up by playing bad moves. So remember this idea. Let's see what else we have here. Instead of king f6, king d6, and now you don't have this stalemate idea. Of course, you're not gonna go like that, right? Rook a6, rook a7. Of course, you start checking, and here you have to use your knowledge of the the key squares to see if you can draw after the king and pawn ended. And here you can. After rook takes, king takes, and simply king e7, he can't defend the pawn. After rook h4, you just go into the Philidors, start checking from behind. And what else? And there's rook f4 again. Alright, so I can tell that you guys are getting it. Now, I want to show you this position because here black cannot save himself due to the opposition of the kings. With the kings facing each other, the rook has no time to come down to c1 and start checking because rook b8 will be checkmate. And this feature alone is too much. So for black to be able to do anything. So black is confined with his rook and king on the back rank. And this causes them to lose the game. So after rook g7, check, king f8, and then rook h7. And notice how this pawn right here is shielding from any kind of checks. And now the threat with rook h7 is just to play that. So king g8, and now a nice little combination here. f7 check forces the king back over, and then rook h8, and then the rook will fall. Now if you went to king h8 right away, the same combination. Rook h7 check, king g8, and then f7, forcing the king over to f8, and then rook h8 will win the rook. So be careful of those type of positions where the kings are opposing each other, because that tempo you need to get down here, you won't have it. Another example, black to move. Now he has time, right, to get his rook off that back rank. He plays his check, the king drops back, and then he just goes all the way back, and white just does not have time to deliver a checkmate because white starts checking himself. Again, it is important to go all the way back to the first rank. For instance, if he tried to check again, this is like a move you were making, time pressure, right? Just keep checking. So say if he just played rook a5, then after king g6, checkmate is threatened, and black does not have time to deliver any more checks. He will be forced to come back here, and then he will enter into the position I just showed you, where his rook is too passive, and he will wind up getting checked, and then this pawn advancing, etc. Wind up dropping the rook here. Rook e8 check also works. Again, it's the same idea, right? After rook e7, rook a8, king f5, and then the same thing. But instead of doing rook e8 and then having having the rook block you, it's easier just to go rook a6, king f5, and then rook a1. Here's another one. Same thing, but this time white to move. And again, as long as white can deliver like a check, a checkmate, and white has time to get his rook activated, then he's okay. So the position again looks menacing, but after rook h7, right, threatening to play rook h8 check, winning the rook, and of course checkmate. Got to mention that because somebody will comment, "Oh, this checkmate, you didn't say it." All right, so rook a6 check, and again king f5, rook a1. So I like to show the same position again with the different sides moving, because sometimes it's very important and sometimes it doesn't make a difference to the outcome of the position. So king g6, and you know the deal, rook g1. Again, another possibility is king g8, but again, just keep it simple. Rook g7, king f8, king g6, and the same thing. But again, you don't even have to move the king. You just bring the rook to the first rank and start checking. So that is like the spirit of the renowned Philidor defense. I want to show you these last two positions from Philidor from the same year, from 1777, and it's like a in the same spirit of the Philidor's defense, right? These two compositions. But here I want you to notice that again the king is the black king is confined to the 8th rank, and the white king is on d5 with his pawn on e5. Okay, and the idea again is to prevent the king from crossing over the 6th rank. Like soon as he goes to the 6th rank, actually you want to block from behind, but you want him to put the pawn on the 6th rank. Okay, you don't want the king, like in this position, you don't want the king to be on e6 threatening mate. That's a dangerous position. That's a troublesome position for white, right? Lost. Lost for black. So let's look right here at the solution. This is black to move. It's a very important move here. If black plays rook f1, right, then the idea of checking from behind is ineffective here because of king e6. Okay, so then black will just get his king squeezed out of that back rank, and then that pawn will eventually queen. So with this in mind, black plays the move rook b4. The idea is if king e6, then rook b6 check. Okay, and then say after king c5, king c5, after king f5, then the rook would go and return to b1. Okay, so that's very important. Let's look at the same position with white to move. And now you understand what's going on. simply king e6, threatening mate. So king f8, rook a8, king g7, and now you see the black king driven away. King e7, rook b4, and then e6, and eventually that pawn is going to queen. It's not enough after rook a7. The king just simply returns to d6. Okay, and let's say after rook b6, then just simply king d7, and then king c6. All right, and let's say tries to do something like that, and just king d6, and now you should be able to see that is all she wrote. So that's why it's very important to understand those little subtleties. So that is basically it for the Philidor's defense. It's very simple. It's one of those things that's spoken about in endgames, but everybody should know Philidor's defense. I'm gonna do a video on the Lucena position also. I mean, that's something that everybody should know also. That idea, people call it building a bridge, but it's from, comes from the composer Lucena. Some people say Lucena, but or Lucina. It depends on where you're from, I guess, and or how serious you take pronouncing these names correctly. But this is the Philidor, um, based on Philidor studies, and I showed you like several examples so that you can get the spirit of what's going on. So there is a reason why they say all rook end games are drawn, because you could be a pawn down, 2 pawns down, and a lot of these rook endings and still draw. You just have to know certain important concepts that guideposts, so to speak, because if you don't know Philidor's position, you'll lose that position because it's too easy to make a mistake. But if you know the position, like, okay, my king is fine on the back rank, all I got to do is get my rook, check this guy off the 6th rank, get my rook down, and provoke his pawn to go to the 6th rank, and then check, and once his pawn reaches the 6th rank, then check the king from behind. Once you had that kind of little formula in your head, then it's very simple. But if you don't know and you say you're in time trouble and you're in scramble, you're gonna make a mistake because it's too easy to panic, especially with the king on the back rank. Because the first thing you're thinking is like, man, my king is cut off, you know, and you get nervous because you're like, my king's out of the game, my king's out of the game. And what's great about the Philidor's position is you don't need the king. All you need is the rook, and that's kind of, it's like uncommon. Usually you need the pieces, kind of helping each other out. But you could just defend with the rook alone, but you got to know what you're doing. So anyway, that's it. Please like and comment and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you guys soon.